Hi, today I'm gonna show you what I did for the test React app. So what I created was a to-do app. Okay, which I'm gonna show you. Okay, so we have here subject. So for example, aside right, and then as you can see, I have here integrated a third-party app for word suggest. So, for example, here, if I click this, it will automatically assign you the word. So, for example, reaction of C. We have here suggestions on based of what the last word, what the last word has typed. So, reaction of news, for example, here. Yeah. Okay, if I save this, it will automatically go to unstarted. So this app also enables you to drag and drop the data uh, on the state that you want to. If ever this task is already completed, so you just drag and drop here in completed. So also has a search capability. Okay, if you search, for example, gym 101. Okay, yeah. Gym 101. Yes. Test. Assignment. As you can see. Okay, so also it has edit capability. So if I edit this, submit, so it will automatically be edited. And also has delete. If I double click this, delete. Okay, so what I did for the what I used here was a Firebase backend. So today I'm just gonna show you the Firebase Firestore. This is I used Firestore here to store the datas. So as you can see, this is the data. Okay, so and then up next, I'm gonna show you about the app. Okay, so we have here the data scaffold that I did. So we have here components. Components are for the um, folder for uh, uh, shared components usually, wherein you can put these components can be called by different pages. So we have here the config file just contain the Firebase setup as of now. But if ever you have other configs, like for example, if you have other APIs, configurations, things like that. Constants, I'm using this one to have one place for the constants and make it cleaner to look. Okay, and enums, I use one enum for status. Enums are like references for TypeScript. It is used to have more consistent and have a better reference compared on hard coding it. So it's better to use enum than create a variable with a list of hard coded data. Okay, and then we have here interfaces. Interfaces are a TypeScript model. So we can use a class in TypeScript as a model as well, but I prefer using interfaces because I believe it's much stricter, and it's uh, what most developer use. So okay, we have here the data muse interface dialog form. As you can see, we have here uh, properties that has this kind of sign question mark. So what is that? Um, this used for some properties in interface that's not required. So if you see a property that has this question mark, meaning this property is not required here in this interface. So this form data you can also in interface you can also assign to a property uh, another enum or proper or interface. So in this case, in the form data, I assign this as I interface of to do. So later we will see the content of this to do. So here we have here a function, arrow function type, which accepts data that has a type of I to do as well, and return none, void. Okay, void meaning it will return nothing. Okay, it will just call the function and not returning anything. So this is an sign for our function. Okay, we have here home. Okay, same as well. So here is the to do interface. So it has a status. As you can see, as I said before, you can assign an enum to the interface property. So you can see here, I assigned status as status enum. So I can only assign this to the status, and I will avoid non-related status to be assigned. Okay, so here is the pages. Okay, pages is for the main pages of your app. So as in this case, I just only have one page, which is the home. Okay, so we have also here okay, this one. As I said before, enum is a reference list, so I'm using it uh, to be more consistent and to define the list better. Okay, this util is for the status, which converts the enum into a list. As you can see here, I have here a method called list, which convert each keys of the status to its value. And I have another method here called title, which transform each enums into a more user-friendly, readable value. As you can see here, we have case unstarted, and I'm converting it here. This is a much cleaner and better way compared on you will just uh, call the enum as directly, and then or you will convert it in this way. This is much cleaner. You will just call it, and it will transform the enum on how you want to. And here is the app. This is the main app for our for this app. Okay, so as you can see, I'm using React hooks. So React hooks is a style is the latest way of creating a React app and handling states. So React hooks already use functional compared before using class and methods. Right now, the most of the data here are using functions because I'm using React hooks. Okay. So in this example, I have as you can see, we have these kind of states. So use states. What is use state? This is another function for React hooks, wherein you will define state for the component. Before on class type React, we're using this dot state, right? So this replace this one, the use state. And since we are using TypeScript, I can define types for each state. In this example, I'm defining this state as boolean, and this is if we want to instantiate value. We have an initial value here, so I define it as false. It can be also like this one, no value at all at first. And you can create also interface and assign it. If you have an object or array of data or array of object for it. Okay, so see uh, this one. So I'm using arrow functions, like I said before, because of the React hooks. Okay, arrow function is a ES6 uh, way of uh, calling a function compared before, which like the old school. But this is just the same compared on before, like function, for example, handle menu event. This is just the same, which is I'm just uh, more confident and used to it. That's why I'm using arrow function. And okay, so what else can I say? Okay, as you can see here, here on this example, I have a parameter which I am defining as I to do, and then this is what it does. So also here in later I will show you a further example of defining our functions. Okay, this is just the simplest way of defining arrow function. Okay, and as you can see, we have here the components, other components that I'm using, and what are these? These are the properties of this component. So I'm passing this inside this component, and or this component are emitting event back to the parent component. Okay, let me give you an example. For example, this form data. This is accepting form data, which is here. So it's an I to do type. Okay, and what and as I said before, it can also pops event into back to parent. Here, as you can see, it's submitting the submit event. I have handler here, which directly uh, handles here. Okay, so if this submit event was called inside this dialog form, I can handle it because by getting the prop value, or if it doesn't have, it's fine. Okay, so router, I'm using a router module. What I was using here is a React router DOM. So this is the I think this is the most commonly used router module for React. So router is used for routing if you have multiple pages, like for example in app like has login, other pages settings, like for instance. So in this case, I just have one router, but I just use router. I can get rid of this router because I only have one, but I just use it just to show you about the router module. Okay. Okay, so let's go inside the home component to show you more example. As you can see, this is what I said before. props. Props are the property of a component which it can receive or emit events. So here, home props. Home has a prop of a property type of iHome. As you can see here, it is defined here. So it has three property and one event. You will know that it's an event if the type is an arrow function. So automatically it's an event that will pops out back to the parent. Okay, so here, use styles. As you can see, I have here use styles. This is not our type of React hooks. Okay, this is just uh, a function that I use for Angular material mix styles. I just defined it here, and this is just the way of defining or overriding uh, classes or design style to material component. Okay. Here I have another use state. I have another state of data. Okay. Why I have these two types of array when defining this use state? So inside the use state you have two data. First parameter will be the container state itself, where you will put the state, and then the second parameter is for setting value into this state. Okay, so I will give you an example here. Example, set data. When I call this set data, it will automatically store the React hooks will automatically store the data that you assign inside this state. So that's how we use state. Okay, so and then another function for React hooks is the use effect. So what is use effect? This is another wherein you can it's like the life cycle before. It's this if I compared on the on previous React, this just like the mount mount method. So if this component loads, it will automatically run the use effect. So this use effect is part of React hooks. So uh, and also why I have a lot of use effect, why not just one? Okay, so because this use effect can watch properties or state changes. So if that property change or called, it will automatically reload or refresh the UI for you. So or other way is if you if this parameter or property is called, it will run the use effect will refresh. Okay, so that's why I have a lot of use effect to separate each property and state that I'm watching. And then this is the default use effect. If you have no parameter inside, this is the one that's been called if the initially the page load. Okay, that's why it just has the fetch data, which calling uh, data here. So okay, so I will also explain this to you. This one, this is fetch data is the one getting the data from the Firebase. So I'm just calling the Firebase setup from the config, and then Firestore method, which is because I'm using Firestore. Okay, and then that collection is for the reference ID that you want to call. So okay, so this is the way of how you call uh, Firebase Firebase Firestore collection. Okay, so I'm just looping inside the snapshot and assigning it into a container, and then uh, this is a filter for another ES6 ES5 um, function that's filtering the array. So this is the condition that if it has subject and subject that includes. Okay, and it's setting inside the data. Okay, what else? Okay, so let us go to the next, which is the dialog form. I'm gonna show you the dialog form component. So it has another. Okay, this component, I'm gonna show you another feature of TypeScript, which this one. As you can see, there's you can define this kind of this the in TypeScript. This is the return value type. Okay, so okay, I just did not define on the other component, just to show to you that you can define or not define, depends on your linting rules. So here, this is just another example that function that has return type. Okay, so in this case, it's returning a React element, and you can see my arrow function. This is what I said before. Another way of defining arrow function has return type, because it's not returning anything. That's why it's void. Okay, in this first instance, this one, if I if I they will define type for this one because it's returning uh, data. Okay, but what else? Okay, set suggestion. What else I did not explain? Hmm, yep, I think. And then this one, as you can see, on the common common web application, the class called class, but here in React, it is called class name, because we're using because of the JSX that's React implemented. In this case, we're using TypeScript. That's why the type is TSX. Okay. Okay. These are the event handlers, and these are the properties. Okay. And we also have here the attributes that called. Okay. Same as the HTML attributes. And what else? Okay. Maybe I can show you now the the testing part. Okay. So here in app.tsx, as you can see, this is just a simple test because I'm not that I'm not expert enough on unit testing. I just learned it for this app. I usually do not create test cases. Okay, so in this app, I used Enzyme and Jest for my testing. So this is an adapter enzyme configure, and shallow. Shallow is a function that's for enzyme to uh, get the content of this component, but shallow is different. It has another functions render displays all, while shallow is just, I think this is just it will not fully expand the components. If it has another component inside this app, it will not fully expand. That's the difference of shallow and render. Okay, so in this test, I'm just checking if this app has the home. home component. So, and then another, let's run this test. So I'm running all tests. Okay, so you can see, yeah, it has 3 passes. So, okay, so that will show more. So, okay, okay. Another, I'm going just wanna show you is the home test. This is also just checking if it has the drag and drop component, and then the top bar test. As you can see, it has this kind of create render and create shallow. This is because I'm using material UI component. So this is like the render, but for material component. Okay, so as well as the shallow. So you can see we have here map to define or handles if the button really has the event of click. So we're simulating it, and if it equals to 1, it's fine, it's working. Okay. Um, okay, I think yeah, that's all for the test. But wait, I think I missed something about this one. About the home. Is it in home? Wait. Uh, in home? No, I think it's inside the dialog form. Okay, I'm just gonna show you something about, yeah, this one. So as I said before, I'm using third-party integration, which but in able to call that, I'm using ASOS. ASOS is a HTTP module that you can use in React. So I'm more confident and used on ASOS compared on default fetch HTTP module. Okay, so in this way, I'm using ASOS getting and then defining the data return value as iDataMuse, and this is the URL, and then the parameter, which the word that you type, and then it's a promise. So I'm using then, and then setting the return value into the state. So yep, that's all. I hope that you understand some of the things that I said, and thank you for watching.